I think they're going to get a wild card, and they're going to finish in second in the AFC North.
Yeah, see, so I agree with most everything you said there. They are going to get better. But the problem is that division is also going to be really tough. So if they can't win the division, they have to get the wild card. I don't know that they're even going to be second in the division. The Steelers' defense was phenomenal last year. And I know that defense is hard to predict from year to year, but I do think their defense is going to be pretty good again. And the Steelers' offense was really, really bad. They're bringing back Ben Roethlisberger, which would lead you to believe that their offense is actually going to be, or it's going to at least be mediocre. Like, it has to be better than it was last year. So I like to think the Steelers...
Stop. Right there. I don't get this. And what I mean by this is this assumption by, quite frankly, a lot of football fans that Big Ben returning alone at age 38 will make this offense, well, the Steelers' offense, much better than it was last year. Now, yes, I get why these widespread assumptions exist about the Pittsburgh Steelers organization and about Big Ben, because on the surface, it does make sense, right? Big Ben was a very good quarterback in 2018. He led the league in passing yards. The Pittsburgh Steelers last season had a top-tier defense, number 1 ranked on DVOA, and they were really plagued by the bad quarterback play from Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So on the surface, if you don't take a closer look at the situation, I can easily see why you can think the second they get their former Pro Bowl quarterback back, that team will be great. But I really don't think that's going to be the remedy for this team. And here's why. Now, here's a quick disclaimer, because there will be a portion of people who will see this video, see that I'm a Browns fan, and automatically assume that I'm trolling. While I am a Browns fan, and yes, sometimes I've let that get the better of me, I have also, as the months have gone on in me doing this YouTube channel, have made a really, really strong effort to be more objective on this channel. Yes, I'm going to be critical of the Steelers in this video, but I've also been even more critical about the Browns. And all I have to say is that if the Cleveland Browns today were in the exact same position as the Pittsburgh Steelers are in right now, I would be extremely concerned about the immediate and the long-term future of this team. And there are more than one reasons to believe this, but let's start with the first one, and that is... Now, this deals with the first part of this assumption about the Pittsburgh Steelers and why everybody who breathes thinks that they're going to get second place this year, and that is Big Ben. That Big Ben will make this lowly Pittsburgh offense from last year at least mediocre. They won't be as terrible as they were last year. They will be a little bit better just because you're adding Big Ben. And again, on the surface, this makes a ton of sense. I mean, Big Ben has more name value and has a better resume than both Mason Rudolph and Delvin Hodges. But when you actually take a closer look at Big Ben at age 38, coming off of a elbow surgery, you really need to ask yourself, is this offense really better off with Big Ben at 38 coming off of elbow surgery than it is with Mason Rudolph or Delvin Hodges? Now, again, if we just look at age, it should be a major concern because, again, Big Ben is 38 years old. He was drafted in 2004. In that draft, there were 2 other notable quarterbacks drafted in the first round, Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning. Eli Manning is retired. Phillip Rivers had his touchdowns go down last season and his interceptions go up and was not brought back by the franchise that has had him the bulk of his career in the Chargers. And for a strong arm quarterback like Phillip Rivers, those numbers and that chain of events is a strong indication that enough people believe that he fell off a cliff last year. Then when you compare the careers of Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers, both players who have already fell off the cliff, and you compare it to Big Ben, it's almost amazing that people don't think that Big Ben's going to fall off a cliff. Because Eli and Phillip Rivers throughout their entire career had no problem staying healthy. But Big Ben Well, that's a different story. Because despite Ben playing in less games, he's been sacked over 55 more times than Phillip Rivers and almost 100 more times than Eli Manning. So not only does he have a ton of miles on his odometer, not only is he older, but those miles on that odometer are really bad wear and tear kind of mile. You also have to consider the fact that Ben has had 5 seasons where he's had to miss 3 or more starts due to injury. And then you compare it to the other 2 quarterbacks who've already fallen off a cliff at their age, the same age that Ben is. And you have to understand that those quarterbacks have never missed a single start in their NFL career due to injury. Then on top of all of that, you add in the fact that Big Ben at age 38 just had to get surgery where he had his elbow tendon or whatever reattached to his throwing arm. A arm, by the way, that's taken a ton of damage over the years. This isn't the first time he's injured his throwing arm. And when you take all of that into consideration, it's really not difficult to see a version of Ben Roethlisberger that honestly in 2021 may not even be better than Duck Hodges. And I hear you, Pittsburgh fans. You're not worried about Ben's age at 38 because Tom Brady's 42. And why can't Ben do what Tom Brady is doing? And oh my God, there are so many reasons why Ben can't do what Tom Brady is doing. He's simply not Tom Brady to start off with. Also, Ben has way more wear and tear on his body than a normal quarterback would, let alone a quarterback like Tom Brady does. Also, Ben just had surgery on his throwing arm. And let's not excuse the elephant in the room, but Big Ben also does not take care of his body at the same level in discipline that Tom Brady does. Tom Brady drinks like weird shakes. Big Ben goes to McDonald's. Like, it's 2 different diets. And also, there's strong evidence that everybody in that draft class that has maintained their bodies better for a long run have kind of fell off that cliff by at least 2019. I don't think Ben's going to be special, and I think he showed evidence of falling off that cliff before he got injured in 2019. Because let's talk about his first game and a half of the season last year. In the 1.5 games he played last year, he threw for 351 yards on 56% completion, no touchdown, 1 interception, and 2 losses. He had an abysmal QBR of 26.5. To put in perspective how awful that QBR is, it's lower than both Delvin Hodges and Mason Rudolph. And Mason Rudolph had the lowest QBR for the entire season of any quarterback in the NFL. And sure, yes, you can make the successful argument that that was a small sample size for Ben, and that if he would have played the whole season, he might not have been at that number. But on the other hand, you can make an equally strong argument that that is a strong indicator that your 37-year-old quarterback at that time is falling off the cliff. And that was before he had surgery on his throwing arm. And it's not just that Ben might not be as good as the other quarterbacks at his age. He might be a little bit better as far as ability goes, but it's also about how that offense is going to be structured if Big Ben is the starting quarterback. In 2018, with a healthy Ben Roethlisberger, the Steelers attempted 689 passes and ran the ball 345 times. So 43 passing attempts a game and 21 rushing attempts. In 2019, without Ben, they passed the ball only 510 times a game and ran 395 times, so 31 passing attempts and 24 runs. Now, everybody talks about this Steelers defense, which is warranted. This is a very good defense. I think it's a little bit overblown how good this defense is, but still, when you have what most would consider a dominant defense, wouldn't you like an offense attached to it? If you're not going to have elite quarterback play, which we can all agree, we don't think Big Ben's going to be elite this year at his age coming off of elbow surgery. But if you're not going to have elite quarterback play, you would prefer an offense that runs the ball more. Why? Because that gives the defense more time to sit on the bench and regenerate after each possession. And also it makes sure that the best part of your team, the defense, is always put in the best situation to succeed. Less turnovers happen when you run the ball, more time time gets killed off the clock, and it just takes longer to do a run-the-ball offense than it does to have a passing offense. It keeps the defense off the field. These are all facts of the game. No matter how bad Ben is this season, you're going to throw the ball a ton more with Big Ben because he's Big Ben. He has that name value. He has the resume. You're not just going to give up on him like you would give up on a Mason Rudolph or a Delvin Hodges and start running the ball a ton. So the fact that you have Big Ben out there means that you're going to run the same offense that you did in 2018, which is 40-plus passing attempts, which means you're going to put that defense on the field more and more often than they had to be last year, which means you're going to expose some parts of that defense. And if you don't believe me, this happened last year. It happened when they lost on Thursday Night Football to the Browns. It happened when they lost in a must-win scenario against the Jets. And even worse, it happened when they lost to the Baltimore Ravens in Week 17 after the Ravens decided to bench their entire starting offense. So this elite Pittsburgh Steelers defense last year found a way to give up 28 points. And I mean no disrespect to RG3, but what was essentially the Ravens junior varsity team. Elite defenses don't lose games to second string offenses, no matter how bad the situation is for the other side of the ball. So I don't believe that the Steelers defense next year is going to be the 2000 Ravens at all. They're a good defense, don't get me wrong, but they're not a defense that's going to carry you. And when you're in that kind of a situation, you have to evaluate your options at quarterback. Mason Rudolph and Doug Hodges aren't good, but at least they incentivize you to run the ball more. If you have Big Ben out there, you're going to put that defense out there, make your strength of the team even weaker because you're throwing him out there for a quarterback that at this point might not even be that much better than Mason Rudolph. And that's when you have to start to question whether Big Ben is really the option that you want to put out there and whether Big Ben at this point in his career is really going to make the team any better. This is another thing I've heard literally nobody talk about. The future for the Pittsburgh Steelers, both immediately and in the distant future, does not look good. One, Pittsburgh has no quarterback talent behind Ben. They have Mason Rudolph and Doug Hodges. And some people believe in Mason Rudolph still, sure, but there's no solution back there. I'm confident in saying that. They didn't draft anybody. I think they've gone about this completely silly. And then their offense is anchored by young players, but those young players, we don't know how good they are because their offense is anchored by James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster. And in 2018, that sounded awesome. But after they took a massive step back in 2019, kind of hells in comparison to what the rest of the division has. The Baltimore Ravens have the reigning MVP and offensive juggernaut by himself, let alone with the other pieces they have on the roster. Lamar Jackson, which is going to be hard enough to deal with. Then you look at the Browns, and the Browns have Odell, Jarvis, Nick Chubb, and hopefully Baker Mayfield can get back to the form that he played in his rookie year where he broke the rookie touchdown record, which honestly, just that alone is an insane arsenal of offensive talent. And then you look at the Bengals, they have A.J. Green, they have Joe Mixon, and hopefully they have Joe Burrow. It also doesn't help that the Steelers have the least cap space in the AFC North. They're in the worst cap situation right now and long term than anybody in the AFC North, with all the cap that's going to be dedicated to Big Ben in the next few years at the advanced age that he's already in. And then you combine that with the Steelers having the oldest roster in the AFC North. And I say this, and I'm not trying to be mean to Steeler fans. I am honestly just trying to tell you the truth about your football team. But if this team in this situation were any other franchise or any other name brand, everybody would see what the writing is on the wall, which is this team is in a very bad spot for the future, especially considering how well the rest of the division has built themselves up for the immediate and long-term future. And yes, while everybody wants to give Pittsburgh the benefit of the doubt, because one, I think it's a lazy thing to do because the Steelers have been good for so many years, so it's easy to recommend them. But if they actually took a look in the situation, again, this is not a franchise that's in a good spot at all. Now let's talk about this roster, because people talk about the Steelers as if the roster hasn't changed from year to year, and this roster is much worse than the roster that Big Ben had in 2018 when he led the league in passing yards, also interceptions, and also the roster that he had last year. Juju Smith-Schuster has significantly regressed since becoming a #1 option. So much so to the point to where he had more receiving yards when he was a clear #2 option to Antonio Brown in 2018 to when he was a clear #1 option to a team that didn't have a lot of options on offense. He had less yards in that situation. That's very concerning, and that's a huge step back for Juju Smith-Schuster. And it doesn't look like they have anybody in line to step up at this moment this season to become that second option. Sure, Deontay Johnson looks like he could step up eventually, but I don't think he's going to be ready this season or next season. I think he's going to take some time to develop. And Chase Claypool, honestly, not a big fan of Chase Claypool myself. Then you have James Conner, who took a massive step back too. Ramon Foster has retired. You have no Antonio Brown. Joe Hayden is your best cornerback at age 31. You just lost Javon Hargraves in free agency. So this roster on both sides of the ball is in a worse place than it was last year. And you're taking a 38-year-old quarterback coming off of surgery, again, on his throwing arm, and then you're putting much less talent around him on the offensive side of the ball, behind a worse offensive line, with offensive pieces that are supposed to anchor the team that were significantly regressed in the year prior. Also, in a division where the other three teams have drastically and rapidly done things to make sure that they can improve, while you signed Eric Ebron. If this were any other team, any other franchise, maybe other than the Ravens or the New England Patriots, everybody would be talking about how bad of a situation this is for a team to be in. But since they're the Pittsburgh Steelers, people seem to be okay with giving this one a slide when they are in such a bad spot. If the Browns were in this kind of position, they would be made fun of, and rightfully so, because this is not a good spot. This is not good team building right here. That's my thoughts on what this team looks like and some of the assumptions that are out there about the Pittsburgh Steelers about how they're going to contend for the division this year, when I just don't think if you take a deep dive into that's realistic at all. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to contend for a division, or do you think that they're going to go down, down, down like I do? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.